What's going on all? Thanks for tuning in once again. So it's official, Zhang versus Parker is going to be on the undercard of Joshua versus Ngannou. You know, this fight is a much better fight than the rumoured fight of Wilder versus Zhang, in my opinion. You know, just because Parker beat Wilder, it only makes sense that he gets a shot at Zhang. Now Zhang is the WBO interim champion at the moment, so Parker's got a lot to fight for. You know, he's fighting for that. He's also fighting for a mandatory spot. And let's not forget, you know, Parker used to be the WBO champion as well, so coming off a win against Wilder, you know, there's a lot at stake for him here. You know, a lot of opportunity here for him to bounce back, get a title shot. Now, Zhilei Zhang on the other side of the coin, you know, he's definitely a big threat to all heavyweights. You know, he's called out all the top guys. He said, hey, listen, any of these guys, if they want to fight, I'll sign the contract. You know, he's one of those heavyweights that will fight anybody at any cost. You know, he doesn't really like to drag out the negotiations. You know, he's all about getting the big fights. And a lot of these guys have avoided him because of his power. You know, Zhang, you know, he calls himself Big Bang. You know, he's got a massive straight left. We saw him demolish Joe Joyce, the Juggernaut. You know, basically took the shield off the Juggernaut and walked him backwards. You know, knocked him out. So I mean, it's a very hard fight for Parker. A very hard fight, but it's not a fight that he can't win. You know, Parker, a guy that uses his skills to win fights. You know, he uses his strengths to win. He's not going to go in there because he's, you know, got the Kong style of Andy Lee, the guidance of him, you know, Tyson Fury. You know, we know now Tyson Fury, you know, he likes to come forward now, you know. He's not going to be doing that. You know, we saw that in the Wilder fight. He was very disciplined. You know, he was keeping his distance. He was well aware of the risk of that right hand, of the distance. You know, he made sure that he was outside of the pocket and picked his moments. You know, in this fight, he can't just pick his moments. You know, Zhang's going to be applying the pressure. So, I mean, it's going to be a case of survival for him in the first 6 rounds. You know, he's going to have to survive the first 6 to have a shot here. You know, Zhang's a guy that tends to get tired. You know, we saw that in the Herkovic fight. You know, he comes to the fight strong, and then as the rounds go one by one, you see him starting to fade. You know, you see the power of the shots not being the same. You see him not throwing as much. You know, he tends to get tired. So Parker needs to survive the first 6 rounds if he's to have a shot at this massive opportunity of beating Zhang. How's he gonna do that? He's got to move. He has to move. And I'm not talking about coming forward and going backwards. You know, he's got to move laterally. You know, he's got to go left and right. You know, Zhang's got the reach advantage. You know, when he fought Herkovic was another tall fighter. You know, another giant heavyweight, you could say. You know, Parker's not a big guy, you know, in terms of height. So he needs to move left and right. He needs to bob down. He needs to target the body to slow down Zhang. You know, you cannot afford to have a shootout with Zhang. Understand that Zhang's a crafty fighter himself. You know, he doesn't just have one punch like Wilder had. You know, he's got plenty to offer. You know, he's got a decent jab. He's got that sweeping right hook. You know, let's not forget that shot that put down Joyce and Herkovic. You know, so I mean, he's got a left hand and a right hand that can knock you out clean with the power that he possesses. Understand that Zhang doesn't really need to have much momentum in these punches. He basically stands stationary and throws these punches with a lot of power as well as a bit of speed. So it's going to be hard to avoid those shots. Parker's going to have to stay low. He can't afford to stand upright. He can't afford to be on the ropes. Most importantly, if he's on the ropes, he's going to be in big trouble here. So, like I say, move left, move right, throw combinations to the body. Most importantly, just survive that first 6 rounds. Once he survives those rounds, then he needs to start applying the pressure onto Zhang. Win the second half of the fight. Try to steal a couple of rounds in the first half of the fight. But for sure, he needs to win on points. There's no way that he's going to knock out Zhang, in my opinion. I just think that Zhang is like a brick wall. Jojo's tried to break that wall and he couldn't. So I don't see Parker breaking the Chinese wall. Okay, Chinese power, he calls it. Chinese speed. It's gonna be a very hard fight for Parker. I think it is possible. I think it is possible that he can beat Zhang just because he can move. Parker is good at moving. As long as he, like I say, as long as he can survive the first 6 rounds and then start, landing on Zhang when Zhang starts slowing down, then he needs to use his speed. So stamina is key for Parker here. He needs to train on his stamina. He needs to train on body punches. Going to the body. If he's head hunting Zhang, there's a strong possibility that Zhang catches him with a straight left. Zhang being a southpaw, it makes it even worse for Parker because that opening's always going to be there. So Parker needs to stay low. He needs to move laterally. He needs to throw combinations to the body. He needs to steal a couple of rounds in the first half of the fight and then win on points at the second half of the fight when Zhang starts slowing down. Use his speed, quickness, agility to his advantage to try to outbox Zhang. But the pick that I'm going for is Zhilei Zhang. I just think that his power is going to be too much for Parker. I think that Parker isn't going to survive 6 rounds. I think that Parker will get stopped, although he has a chin. I think he will get stopped at round 6. I think that the damage that Zhang possesses to Parker with his power shots, his straight lefts, sweeping right, I think, once he starts breaking down Parker, I see Parker losing by either knockout or stoppage. So that's my take on it. Full props to Parker for taking the fight, going for the big fights, challenging the biggest left hand in boxing. And before that, he fought the biggest right hand in boxing. So full props to Parker for taking these big fights. But I just think that Zhang, being as crafty as he is, being as good as he is at, coming forward, applying pressure, slipping shots, I think eventually he's going to get to Parker, land something big, and I see Parker folding, losing the fight. That's my take on it. Leave yours anyway. Look forward to the comments. Thanks for tuning in once again, and I'll catch you next time. Peace. Have a good one.